All right, what's poppin' party pundits? Y'all know what it is. It's the pundits of pugilism, pop talk. We're back at it again. This is your man, Professor Nims. I'm signing on with Boston Jared.
Peace.
We are a duo for the night. We are missing, of course, the casual Rand and Coach Dave, but we still wanted to bring you this hot content, and we got what I feel is probably one of the best matchups of the year when it comes to skill level, getting fighters in their prime, undefeated. And we're talking about David versus David and David Benavidez versus David Morrell. They are fighting at light heavyweight. That's right. Yeah, that's not, it's, but
They're fighting at 175. They're fighting at
yeah,
1.
at 175. And these are, and I think that's important to note because these are two fighters who have really done the kind of yeoman work at super middleweight for like
Oh, not Morrell, and
Morrell's
that's
always been at light heavyweight.
well, Morrell fought as an amateur at the amateur light heavyweight, which is like close to 180. I believe it's like 177 or 178.
No,
So
I thought it was 172 though. For
is
like
it one step? I know you fought amateur, so if that
yeah,
okay, so I
it's a
stand
little
corrected.
bit different. Yeah.
So if it's 172, so yeah, so Morrell, well, at least as an amateur, Morrell has 130 plus fights over 170, but not the 175-pound mark that it is in the pros.
Yeah,
So
but he's
yeah,
close. I mean, 3 pounds and stuff. So, but we're gonna get into it. We're gonna first kind of do a kind of a little bit back and forth and kind of analysis on the fight, and then we'll end with our pundit picks. It'll just be two of the pundits, but at the same time, you're still going to get the most erudite content on boxing on the internet. So let's start with this. And for me, I just want to kind of set the stage. One is that I'm a little kind of disappointed that this fight hasn't kind of resonated with the broader boxing public, the kind of casuals, in that because I think that we you have two fighters with very fighter friendly styles. At least with David Benavidez, he's an American, he's Hispanic American, but speaks English. David Morrell doesn't speak English and all that, but he comes from that storied Cuban amateur, background, and we've seen a lot of their fighters go on to become stars. I wouldn't say superstars, but at least come stars like once they got over here. And then for
been
him,
successful, been
been
successful. Yeah,
successful. But I mean, I would you don't think that
nah, none of them
like
dudes. The closest.
Casamayor like didn't become a
Nah,
star?
I think the closest to a star that the Cubans have had has been Gamboa. Like
Yeah, I
prime
was I
Gamboa
kind of
was
put
the
Gamboa
closest.
at the top of that or
But
whatnot,
now
but
Lara, I mean, the best guys we've seen over the last few years have been Lara and Rigo, and both of those guys were, developed a reputation for not being super fan friendly.
yeah, I mean they didn't have
Tremendous,
the
tremendous
style.
fighters, but just
Like they
not,
didn't have the
so definitely
style,
not star level.
but I don't know. It just I guess sometimes when you so much of a boxing junkie that you don't know. But I
Yeah,
just thought
yeah,
that Casamayor, he was just like you talk to any real boxing fan, and I'm not trying to put anybody out there like they knew about your Casamayor, like his
yeah. Of
battles
course,
with Castillo
we,
and
we've
all
got
this.
we've got different perspectives though. Being like we've been watching this, our whole lives essentially.
Yeah,
We're both over the age of 40 now, so yeah. Casamayor, yeah, yeah, nah. But this, uh, like you said, man, this is it is interesting to see how relatively little buzz this fight is generating, especially from Benavidez being we're kind of riding the social media wave of
yeah,
popularity. I mean, he's done the rounds. I think he was on Cam and Mace's show.
yeah.
I believe he did a podcast with Shannon Sharp and Chad Johnson. I believe they have some sort of podcast or
Mhm.
something. And I don't watch Chad Johnson and Shannon Sharp, but from what I understand, they've got a pretty decent following. Say all that to say this. you would think there would be a little bit more mainstream buzz for this fight,
Well, yeah,
and there
well,
just isn't.
yeah, but if not only for the reason that this guy got the ultimate cosign and his new nickname from Mike Tyson. Like he didn't even
Right,
have to
right.
be he didn't even have to be on the show, but his presence was so menacing and stuff that he challenged the the Charlo twins and stuff like that. It's like, why are y'all not fighting the Mexican monster?
Yeah,
And they try
yeah.
to act like they didn't know, but when he said that, they knew exactly who he was talking about. So he
People's attention spans are not, the Charlos are not
right.
even part of boxing discussions anymore, right?
Yeah, and let's be honest. He has um had his opportunity um kind of mitigated because of Canelo Alvarez. Canelo Alvarez
Yeah, yeah.
refused to
There's that
fight
too.
him,
I didn't even
and
want to go down that rabbit hole. But
yeah, I
yeah,
mean, let's
nah,
be honest and whatnot.
I'm
Like
with
that,
you.
like you have kind of disavowed an opportunity for this guy to become a mainstream star and everything. Because I mean, nobody wants their somebody else's stardom to kind of be built on your back, but like that is the natural kind of order in boxing. It's just that, right? It's the end with the young, out with the old in a sense. But to keep on message, we have two fighters that are fighting at light heavyweight, and if we're gonna be honest, they're probably coming off of one of like their
Lackluster performances. Yeah, yeah.
lackluster performances. For and let me check that. So for David Benavidez, this
It
was
was
well,
Bosdick.
I was yeah, it was against Vosdick, and I want to say this was his first fight at light heavy, but
Yeah,
I'm
it was
going through
David.
because I want to come because I know he come in, but like going through his box rec. So this was his first time that he fought
Yeah,
at that
yeah, yeah.
weight, and he didn't seem to kind of have the same impact
He
with his
had
punches.
zero impact. I mean, those punches were like it reminded me of Paulie Malignaggi in there punching guys. I mean, he was making all these noises and throwing all these combinations, and Vosdick's face wasn't even swollen. I mean, Benavidez had more swelling on his face after the fact. Now, that's not to say that Benavidez was in danger of losing the fight. I thought that Benavidez won that fight pretty handily, but I think the expectation was that Benavidez was going to stop Vosdick. I mean, Vosdick was a guy who, at one point, was one of the premier names in the division. Got stopped by Beterbiev years ago, right? People forget this
He
was
gave him a
years
good
ago that
fight
he lost
though.
to Beterbiev. Did give
Yeah.
Beterbiev probably his best professional fight. Got stopped by Beterbiev, retired for years, years. Sorry, Bostic was retired for years, came back, fought a couple of nondescript opponents, and then was essentially served up to Benavidez. This was supposed to be a showcase. Vosdick was supposed to be a showcase opponent for Benavidez. By way of contrast, in my opinion, the hot rod fight for Morrell was supposed to be more of a step up test fight. Um, I think that Hot Rod was a much tougher opponent just overall than Vosdick. I would have picked Hot Rod to beat Vosdick based off of those two. How I saw Vosdick do against Benavidez and how I saw Hot Rod do against Morrell. Vosdick looks shot to me. Vosdick looks like a shot fighter to me. And yeah, I was surprised at how little impact those punches had on Vosdick. He got hit with clean hard shots in that fight, and Vosdick just didn't even blink, didn't even register sometimes. So
Well, I mean, what about his punch resistance at that weight?
yeah, we don't know, and that's to me is going to be a huge
Well,
question mark.
just in that fight, I mean, how would you? how would you rate it? I mean, do you think that?
I mean, I mean, those arm punches from Vosdick, I mean, he took the punches well. I didn't like how he looked like he got dislodged a few times. Like he lost his
Yeah,
footing a couple times.
yeah,
Like Vosdick's a big guy. Let's make no mistake about it.
and
Vosdick, I think, is a little bit bigger than Morrell, but just the punches just Vosdick just didn't. He was not the same guy. I mean, we're talking about the guy that beat Adonis Stevenson into a coma, right?
yeah.
That wasn't this not even close to that level of Vosdick. But to answer your question, I don't know that the Vosdick fight is going to show how good of a chin Benavidez has at that weight based on the Vosdick performance. I just don't know. He didn't
All
get
right.
hit enough
So, I mean, we
punches
kind of
to
talked
really
about
be
that, but let's also talk about David Morrell's latest performance against
hot rod.
yeah, Hot Rod. And I thought that I wasn't
Y'all had
impressed.
a lot to
Like
say. Y'all
I
had a
didn't
lot to
think
say
that
in
it
the chat.
was yeah, I mean, I didn't think that there was any controversy as far as who won the fight in there, but I didn't like the way that he fought that fight. And which is
I agree with you.
I won't get too much into it because like I think it really goes into my prediction for it, but I almost thought he looked a little disinterested, almost like during that fight.
He looked uninterested and he looked like a guy who fell in love with one skill set, fell in love with his power from fighting smaller guys. Because to be honest, both Morrell and Benavidez had been served up much smaller guys to beat on in showcase fights. And Morrell, he did look. I mean, again, he was the first fight of the night or some shit like that. There was nobody in the crowd,
Yeah.
like, and that's not a position he's used to that he's been in probably since he left Cuba, right? This guy had been fighting at the Armory and doing, I guess, decent numbers, but again, going from that and the Armory to being the first fight on the card and not having anybody in the audience. And not only did he look disinterested, but he fought a very undisciplined fight. He expected Hot Rod to just fall over as soon as he hit him. And Hot Rod's a full-fledged 175 pounder with who's been established in the division for a while. Hot Rod's a good fighter.
He is a good fighter, but I thought I don't think we expected David Morrell to kind of run over him. I just thought that we just thought that he would show a little bit more flashes of the brilliance that we've kind of seen some of there, and then it was a pedestrian performance, just to kind of be kind to it. Um, so with this said, I think that one thing that they've done, even though they haven't really got any kind of media or much media attention, is that they have been able to at least trump up and uh, kind of like fabricate this disdain for each other because like you cannot put
Yeah,
them within 3 feet of each other, and they look like they want to tear each other's head off in a sense.
yeah.
Um, we're gonna we're gonna see, I think, a lot of that play out in there. But one thing is that I think the person that is able to control his emotions more is actually gonna benefit when it comes to this fight, everything. Because
That's been Morrell so far. Morrell's up
yeah.
there.
What
He's last.
you
I mean,
saying in his fights are just in the build up to this fight or just in the past, like
I'm
during
talking about in the build up to this fight, man. He's not. I mean, I watched the arrival press conference, whatever it was they had
Mhm.
today, and Benavidez Morella's up there laughing and joking, and David Benavidez is up there just ice cream. Wants to fight everybody. He wants to fight Louis de Cubas, his promoter. He's accusing him of all kind of stuff.
Mhm.
He's talking shit to Louis de Cubas. He's talking about fucking up the Morrell. Some of that's performative a little
Yeah.
bit. But some of it is really David, I think, in an unfamiliar position here, man, where this guy, I think he's annoyed and a little bit just kind of like, This guy is just not worried at all. But Morrell's just he's not worried. He's not afraid of Benavidez. He's not worried. I don't think Morrell has much respect for Benavidez at all.
Wow. I mean, I
He's up there chilling. I mean, your viewers, y'all go back and look at the press conference with a few exceptions. I mean, there was the face off where Benavidez pushes him and then Morrell throws the belt at him, and then there's the other face off they had where they were getting ready to film the trailer for the build up to the fight where they got into it and had to be separated. So they've both they both got a little spicy when around each other. But today, like Morrell was chilling, man. He had his Michael Jackson
yeah, he was mic'd out.
Thriller jumpsuit on, man. He was chilling, man, laughing and joking. Like he's good, man. He's chilling. He's chilling. Not
So
worried at all.
with these guys, even though Morrell only has 11 professional bouts, he does have stored in a more extensive amateur career. But they're both at around 82% when it comes to the knockout percentage. So more times than not, their opponent does not see the final bell. Um, at this weight for them, I'm not sure how much that is going to necessarily play out, but I still think that we are in for a very entertaining bout, one that's going to have some ebbs and flows. I think that, and this is kind of typical of Benavidez that I think when it first starts out that Morrell is going to look very, very good. And then some of the people are going to be like, this guy's getting outclassed. I'm in there. And do you kind of see it in that way?
Yeah, I think that Morrell is going to give this guy a boxing lesson, man. I think it's gonna be 12 rounds of just
Really?
taking this guy to school, man. He talking about a guy. The guy's just more versatile. He's a more skilled fighter. I mean, you listen to people talk about the build up to this fight. It's experience, this experience, and David experience. But what kind of experience, really? I mean, he's got more professional fights. But I've told people Morrell might have more rounds boxed, and that Cuban amateur circuit is not a joke, man. I mean, you see what the B list Cubans come over here and become champion. Guys like Rance Bartelme, Yildinis Ulga, those are the B listers. They come over here and become world champions. That Cuban amateur circuit is no joke. And for this kid to go 130 allegedly within 4 losses, that's a lot of work. By way of contrast, a guy like Benavidez had like 15 amateur fights, and he's got how many pro fights? 20 something?
29.
He's got 30 pro fights, and how many rounds boxed? I mean, he went the distance with Plant, went the distance with Vosdick. I know, went the distance with Gavril twice. So
Mhm.
he may have close to as many round bucks, but the experience thing is not that much of a deficit to me. And the skill deficit to me is significant. I think Morrell is just a far more versatile, more skilled fighter. And Benavidez is not going to have that size advantage that he has relied on very, very heavily in his previous fights. He's not the bigger, stronger guy.
I wouldn't argue. I think he might be a little bit longer, but
No, he's not. He's given up 4 inches of reach.
he's he has a 70. So Dave Morrell has a 78-inch reach.
It's 78 or 79, something like that.
Oh,
This
that's
guy's arm,
crazy.
guy's arms
Wow,
go
you're
down to
right.
his
You're
calves.
right. He 78. Wow, that is um I'm gonna say I'm kind of shocked by that. I
He's
just thought
got
that he didn't more, I mean, David Benavidez just always kind of seemed a little bit long and kind of lankier to me. But I guess I didn't really kind of understand how truly big that David Morrell was.
and
But
he's a southpaw cam.
yeah, I mean, but he's fought southpaws before
Not with
and
not
destroyed them and
not with
destroyed them.
79-inch reaches.
That's
Not a guy
true.
like this with his kind of pop. It's gonna be real tough for him to close that distance, man. It's going to be real, real close. He's going to have to use his feet to close. You want to get? I don't want to get too far ahead into the breakdown and the predictions, but
Well, yeah,
yeah,
yeah. I mean, we'll hold off on that. But I mean, we're talking about advantages and disadvantages. But I think that the overwhelming advantage when it comes to level of competition, it has to fall with David Benavidez, right?
oh,
He's
absolutely,
he
yes,
he's fought Andrade, Caleb Plant, David Lemieux. Just like that's kind of
yeah, 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 yeah. There's no question about
we'll
that.
get there.
Ain't no question.
So Anthony
Ain't no-
Durrell. So I mean, those things are gonna bode well for him in this fight. But
Let me,
at the same time, this event is not it's not going to be too big for David Morrell. So that's like those are not. But at the same time, is that David Benavidez doesn't get discouraged. Like he's been outboxed, right? He's had people whose footwork that he wasn't necessarily able to kind of cut off the ring. So we saw him get outboxed by Caleb Plant.
yeah, he
Um,
sure was. He sure was getting outboxed by Plant.
he was. I'm surprisingly. Um, Andrade was not outboxing him, which I didn't. I I thought that was strange. I thought that it was. I thought he would. I thought he would easily win the first 4 rounds in that fight.
Yeah, Andre, he just didn't have the size, and I picked Andrade to win that fight. I thought that having seen him, Andrade up close, Andrade's a pretty big guy, especially for 154 and 160. But that jump up to 168, fighting against a guy who started at 100, Andrade just didn't have the size, and you could see that on fight night how he was a much smaller guy, couldn't get Benavidez respect. Morrell will be able to get Benavidez respect, and you will see that quick, fast, and in a hurry on Saturday night. Benavidez will understand he cannot sit there and take shots from this guy all night. He can't. He can't sit there and take shots all night from this guy.
I mean, I don't. So, do you do you think that that's an MO of David Benavidez? Because to me, I would say I think I think his defense is a little bit underrated
Yes.
for me.
Yeah,
And
I absolutely agree with that. But again, Cam, when you know the other guy can't hurt you, your disposition is going to be very different than when you're dealing with a guy you know can hurt you. It's easy to be slick and quasi slick and quasi clever in there and kind of work on stuff the way you saw him doing against Bostic. And again, Bostic is a guy who he had sparred in the past, so he was very familiar with Bostic.
yeah.
But the other guys that he had been in there with, man, Andrade, Plant, Keem Ellis, Kyron Davis, um, Andre Durrell. Those were guys who I don't think he had any kind of respect for, and those guys never ever got his respect. Morrell is going to get his respect.
He has tasted the canvas. I know at least once.
He did. Gavril knocked him down, and that was, to be fair, that was when he was like a kid. I think he was maybe 20 years old or 21 years old,
Hmm.
fighting against a guy in Gavril with a ton of amateur experience. I know some people probably watching right now will dismiss the amateur experience, but Gavril from an Eastern European amateur school, a lot of amateur fights, a lot of pedigree there. And I thought Benavidez maybe lost that first fight, but I thought he did a pretty good
Hmm.
job of separating himself in the second fight. But yes, he has been down. He has been down. I think Gavril knocks him down uh, midway through that first fight that he had.
So, and we're gonna go into our pundit picks shortly, but I just want to kind of talk about some of these ancillary kind of topics before we do that. Is that what does the winner, and even by kind of default like loser, kind of go after this? The reason that I state this is that um, the undisputed champion at that weight class, whether you agree with it or not, is Beterbiev. He's going to be rematching Bivol soon.
Couple
But
weeks.
yeah, so do you think that natural and logical next step for the winner of this fight is to challenge the um new undisputed light heavyweight champion, and then
Yeah,
try
that's
to
already
make that. That's
that's a
already
done,
agreed upon.
that's a done deal. Winner of this fight gets the winner of Bivol better Beef.
Really? How is that? So I'm a little because all right. So the Bivol and Better Biev is a that is part of the Riyadh season.
Yep.
But this is a PBC fight, which is
Yeah, yeah,
I'm
yeah.
I don't know what's going on with PBC.
How they're still in business. Yeah,
Yeah,
they ain't gonna
I
they
thought they
ain't gonna
would
be
be.
in business.
I don't know what's going on with PBC, and I think that's one of the reasons why we can't get Rand to come back on the show. He might have.
Interesting to show tied to PBC. But yeah. Look, all the belts are over there. All the belts are over there. All the money's over there. All the fights are over there. So that's I mean, and don't forget, Morrell's fight against Hot Rod was on a Riyadh season
It
card.
was on the Riyadh season and
So,
whatnot. So
and
they
Louis DeCubas, who manages him, I think Louis DeCubas has already has that back channel set up because once the Amazon shit's done with, they're gonna have no choice but to go over to the zone and do all that stuff. But yeah, but the Bevo Better Beef winner versus the winner of Morrell Benavidez, that's already set up.
okay.
That's already a done deal. Um, so yeah.
All right. So let's jump into it. I'm gonna go ahead and let you kind of start off. Give us before you give us your pundit pick. Kind of tell us how you think the fight is gonna like play out, based on each fighter's kind of strengths and weaknesses, and then go ahead and enlighten us with your pundit pick.
Well, again, we talked about the fighters, the reach discrepancy. These are both kind of like both these guys are built like kind of like extraterrestrials, especially Benavidez. He's got a very, very kind of strange body type.
Yeah, he's got
He's
the
got
kind of fat, skinny body.
he looks like he kind of built like Tyson, kind of built like Tyson Fury, you know.
Yeah.
Got a bag of yogurt kind of physique. But getting away from the physique, what I was going to talk about is the reach. Both of these
Yeah.
guys have very, very long arms to begin with. Both are tall, about the same height, it looks like. Maybe Benavidez is a little bit shorter. They both got very long arms, both close to 80 inches in reach.
Well, I mean,
When
but 74 and a half to 78 and a half. I was astonished when I read that, and like I thought I was up on this. I just assumed, and
that's a
I was kind of too, but 78 and a half inch
he's
reach.
at a significant reach advantage, Cam. And when he comes out in southpaw and matches up to Benavidez orthodox, Benavidez is going to feel like he's 100 feet away from this guy. And he's going to have to be able to establish the best boxing 101, orthodox versus southpaw, orthodox fighter needs to win that foot placement battle to establish that lead right hand. Benavidez has got two left feet lined with lead and cement. Whereas this kid Morrell is very, very light on his feet, very, very, very quick footed. And I do not see Benavidez being able to establish that lead foot the way he needs to. And he's not going to be able to establish that right hand. He's going to end up reaching a lot. And I think he's going to keep getting countered. He's going to get countered. He's going to get countered. And if he doesn't reach and if he doesn't initiate, I think he's going to get beat to the punch. This kid Morrell has just got superior foot speed. He's able to change levels very, very quickly and very abruptly for a guy his height. He can get up under punches. He can pivot. He can move, and that's how this fight is going to begin. I think he's going to David Morrell is going to set the pace very, very early with slick, smart boxing. And when Benavidez finds himself down in this fight, I think Benavidez is either going to just say fuck it and come forward, and we might see something similar to what happened to Errol Spence against Terrence Crawford. Not with all the knockdowns. I don't think that Morrell is going to be able to knock Benavidez out, but I think you're going to see clean, hard shots being landed consistently by Morrell. David's just not going to be able to close that distance. That right hand, that distance just is not going to be there. And if that lazy, that jab of his that he likes to establish. And he does have the hand speed advantage. It's one thing I will say. I do think Benavidez has slightly quicker hands, but he's going to have a tough time getting that jab around the lead hand. And if he does not bring that lead jab hand back to his eyebrow, he's going to get countered over the top with lead hooks or the lead jab. And he's going to end up with swelling or maybe even cut very, very early in this fight. This bad. I mean, I can go on and on and on, Cam. Like, after I saw this kid go 12 rounds against an undefeated guy in his third professional fight, and albeit against a guy in Lennox Allen who is not a world beater, right? The guy's not a world beater, but pick your favorite prospect, right? Pick Boots Ennis, Abdullah Mason, Shushu Carrington. Pick a guy, pick your top blue chip prospect, and show me what they were doing in their third professional fight. They weren't fighting 12 rounders against undefeated guys. They weren't. This guy is just I said it back then. He's gonna beat Benavidez. I said it after the Lennox Allen fight. I said this guy's bad news for Benavidez. This guy is he's always gonna be bad news for Benavidez. It's just his attributes and his skill set is just made to beat him. The same way that Crawford is just always gonna be bad news for Spence. Just the style and the attributes. It's just too much. This is a bad fight. This is going to be a 12 round boxing lesson. And I think that Morrell does it, makes it look easy at times. I think Morrell has fun in there.
Wow. Wow. So you got a UD 12 rounds or now
I'm sure
in
that
the
some
boxing
judge
clinic.
I'm sure some judge will have it artificially close. I mean, don't be surprised if you see a majority decision. One guy might have it a draw. One judge might have it a draw, something like that. Don't be surprised if you see a 115, 130, something like that. It'll be artificially close on the scorecards, but everyone will know. There won't be any doubt after this fight as to who won. I think Morrell outboxes them, outclasses them, and makes it look easy.
Wow. Okay, okay. So I've struggled with this a little bit, right? So we got two, like I said, we talked about two guys in their prime. David Benavidez is 28, David Morrell is 27 years old. The guys, like, neither one of them haven't taken any punishment really in the ring. If you want to say just by the length of his career, maybe David Benavidez is taking a little bit more because I haven't really seen David Morrell been even kind of shocked or kind of hurt with any kind of punch. Um, with that said, his last performance, and speaking of him, David Morrell, did give me pause in the sense that he this was the most flat-footed I had seen him really fight before. I thought that maybe it was because he let the moment get to him in the sense that I think that he wanted a stoppage. I think that he was going for the stoppage and then that he wanted to make sure that he was able to get maximum impact on his punches by fighting flat-footed and kind of setting his feet in there. But I think that David Benavidez is going to study that fight in there, and I think that it's not going to be good the first 4 rounds. I've said that. It's going to kind of look bad and do that, but I think that there is a type of kind of psychological pressure that David Benavidez is able to put onto his opponents just because of his constant pressure. A lot of that psychological fatigue really come from just because he was so much bigger, right? So like when you get pressure from somebody who's bigger for you, who's kind of looking down, like it is really intimidating, like as an indifference to somebody who's shorter that's kind of pressuring you. But I still think that it's going to get to him at a certain point, but to me, what I think is that around the 6th round, you're going to see a little bit of a change. And I hope and I pray that David Benavidez has been working on cutting off the ring and also making sure that he's able to establish his lead left foot outside of David Morrell's right foot. and he's able to kind of walk him into the right. Because I thought that even though I didn't like his last performance, I thought that David Benavidez still does a good job of being able to kind of shoot his right hand through when it when it comes to southpaws or whatnot. It wasn't having the impact that we would necessarily kind of hope for, and I'm encouraged by his performance against Demetrius Andrade. Um, Even though I was really surprised by the way that Andrade fought that fight. It was like he had lost his legs overnight. But he's in his mid 30s. A lot of times you don't
Oh,
really
Andre is yeah, it's coming up on 38. He'll be 38 next month.
yeah, 30 yeah. So at the time that he fought, so a lot of times sometimes you kind of lose your legs like overnight. That's not going to be the case with David Morrell, who's only 27 years old. Um, but I think that because of um the hype around the fight, his kind of willingness to kind of put on a show and stuff. I think that he can be drawn into um, the type of a fight that's not going to be conducive to him winning. So I'm gonna go with a split decision on something that's going to be controversial with David Benavidez. I could see a cut. I think we're gonna see a couple of head clashes. So I think that David Morrell is gonna he might suffer, even though actually because he's a little actually I think that I'll take that back. I think David Benavidez is gonna be more likely because David Morrell has more of a he's more in his stance. David Benavidez practically fights straight up right in there. So when you're clashing, the guy that's like shorter, that's coming under, like their top of the head is gonna hit you around your eyes in that situation. So I think that if there are some cuts, but I think it's gonna be bloody. Um, I think that I think we're gonna see David Morrell kind of holding at some times and doing some other things. So I think it's gonna
Really?
be I think it's gonna be interesting, but I think that um this is gonna be I won't say he's kind of biting off a little bit too much, but I think that David Morrell or David Benavidez kind of experience in these big fights, fighting at that high level of competition is gonna bode well with him, and that he's going to really keep it together towards the late rounds. Or I think that David Morrell is gonna kind of, even if it's just kind of mental, I think he's gonna fatigue a little bit, and then usually during that time the person that is that's a little more tired, they kind of lose their like their technique a little bit more. So I got David Benavidez in a split decision in a very
Split decision.
hard fought fight. It's gonna be a little controversial because at times it's gonna be who you like, because he's gonna throw rapid fire. If he can, he's gonna throw rapid fire combinations. And David Morrell doesn't throw those he's from that Cuban style of just like, well, he's more of a 1-2. He's not. I'm not saying that he's a Idris Lana Lara, like in the sense,
Yeah, he's not the
and
typical
and, and, and,
Cuban.
and like all he does is the 1-2 in there. But I think that David Benavidez, his activity in his variety of punches is gonna bode well for him.
That's interesting. I was
That's what I'm
if
going
Ben
for. That's what I'm going for.
All right. To me, if Benavidez is throwing punches and combinations, he is going to get countered into oblivion. It's going to turn into a
Ooh,
catch and it's going to turn into a catch and shoot drill because whenever he throws in combination, his hands go down here.
yeah.
He's always got both hands away from his face when he throws a combination. He throws combos like a Street Fighter character. And a guy with a tight, disciplined guard who's not afraid to take them shots and not afraid to punch with you, that's bad news, man. That's bad news. That's bad news. We'll see. Again, I could go all night and talk about how I think the different ways that Morrell could beat this guy, man. But we'll see. Split decision, man. Like I said, yeah, split decision. Not
I
for
think it's gonna be
Benavidez, of course,
tough.
but for
I just
Morrell.
I think it's gonna be tough. And one thing I do want to um one caveat is that David Morrell throws a really nice well he has good uppercuts anyway, but he has a really nice lead uppercut. And if they haven't kind of guarded against that, like I could see because those are the punches that you don't see, the ones that come up under.
And
And
he changes levels very well for a guy his height.
he does.
He changes levels abruptly and explosively. Like it is like watching him do it, it's like, oh shit. Like a guy that tall being able, he doesn't get down to the way Pernell Whitaker got down before. A guy who's 6'1" and a
Yeah.
half or whatever he is, to just boom, he just changes levels, man. And it's like you said, that lead uppercut, the lead stab jab to the abdomen, overhand lefts. The one thing I'm really hoping this fight, Morrell likes to throw this lead right hook. And that lead right hook sometimes has a tendency to go a little bit long. And that guy, last guy
It
he
gets
fought,
wide. It gets really wide and
well,
long.
it gets wide, but Senna Agbeko, he hit Senna Agbeko in the back of the head.
Yeah.
And that's what initiated the knockout. That was a shot that hit Agbeko behind the head, and it happened when Agbeko had shelled up, and Morrell, the distance was a little bit off, and that left hook, instead of landing it on the ear, that shit landed back here and like high, and Beko just. And I can see that happening in this fight because Benavidez likes to shell up. He's got really long arms, and it might be challenging for Morrell to punch through that. He might try to punch around it. I can see him hitting Benavidez in the back of the head. And if Benavidez is losing, I could see him just staying down and and
What? Oh, okay.
crying for a DQ.
A
I can
DQ.
see that happening. And it might be justified. You hit a guy in the back of the head, he can't continue, it's a disqualification. That's that's my one concern. My other concern, and I'll end with this because we've been going now for a little while. I didn't think we'd be on this long. There was a lot made of the drug testing and the lead up to this fight.
Mhm.
Benavidez in the initial press conference made a very big deal about Team Morrell's reluctance or unwillingness, whatever you want to call it, of taking VADA tests. And Benavidez had mentioned that they had threatened to call the fight off if drug testing wasn't implemented. And I really hope we don't end up with a Ryan Garcia, Devin Haney situation where Morrell comes in there and gets the win, and then the next day or the day after, we hear about some sort of adverse finding or something like that. I was hesitant to even bring that up. I don't even want to put that out in the atmosphere in the universe. But it's something to think about because it's something that came up in the lead up to this fight. So
With that said, I think that we are in for and this is I want to give PBC credit. This is a good card. We're not going to kind of go through the card and all that, but we want to encourage you to go out and check out this fight. Check out this card. I think that this is going to be a really good kind of start to this kind of spring boxing rejuvenation in the sense that this is going to kick off. Then we're going to have Bivol and Benavidez come up.
that's a huge card. That card is
That's a
like
that card is crazy. It's one of the best cards that we've seen within the last 10 years. And we kind of we keep saying that when it comes to Riyadh season, but there's like this is gonna be it's been slow, and we know that, so that's why the pundits have been in hibernation a little bit. But it's gonna pick up. We're gonna be coming at you with plenty of more content. So make sure that y'all tune in. Make sure that you like and subscribe. Let's get these numbers up. We appreciate y'all rocking with us tonight. This is your man, Professor Nims. I'm signing off for Boston Jared.
Peace.
Shout out to the Casual Rand and Coach Dave. We are the pundits of pugilism, and we are out.